The Concordat exploration vessel, Eternal Seeker, drifted silently through the void, its crystalline sensors probing the darkness of unexplored space. Captain Ixel Vos, her iridescent scales shimmering under the soft blue lighting of the bridge, studied the holographic display with all three sets of eyes. After centuries of peaceful expansion and cataloging uninhabited worlds, the Concordat had grown complacent in their role as the galaxy's shepherds. That complacency shattered like glass when the first anomalous readings appeared. "Captain," called out Senior Sensor Officer Trell, their tentacles writhing in agitation. "I'm detecting artificial signals from the third planet of this system. But that's impossible." Ixel glided across the bridge, her hover harness humming softly. "Explain, Senior Officer." "The signals are primitive radio waves, the kind young civilizations typically produce during their early development." But Trell's tentacles twisted themselves into a knot, a sign of extreme confusion among their species. "There's something else, something our instruments can barely detect." The holographic display shifted, showing a seemingly empty region of space near the system's asteroid belt. Except it wasn't empty. Subtle distortions, almost invisible to their most advanced sensors, suggested the presence of something massive. "Magnify that section," Ixel ordered, her scales darkening with concern. As the image zoomed in, the entire bridge crew fell silent. Through the sensor ghosting and distortion, they could make out the unmistakable silhouette of a warship. Not just any warship. This vessel was larger than anything in the Concordat fleet, its design unlike anything their archives had recorded. "Multiple contacts." Trell's voice rose in pitch. They're everywhere. Our initial scans missed them completely. The entire system is surrounded by a defensive grid of these vessels." Ixel's primary heart skipped a beat. This was supposed to be a simple survey mission, cataloging what appeared to be a primitive civilization's first steps into the cosmic ocean. Instead, they had stumbled upon something far more significant. "Launch a probe," she ordered, keeping her voice steady despite her racing hearts. "Let's see how they react." The moment the probe left the Eternal Seeker's launch bay, the situation changed dramatically. The massive ships they had detected shifted position with impossible speed, their stealth fields dropping to reveal sleek, angular vessels of dark metal that seemed to absorb light itself. A communication request pinged their systems, in perfect Concordat standard. "This is Admiral Helena Chen of the Terran Defense Force." A calm human voice announced over their speakers. "You've entered restricted space. While we appreciate the Concordat's exploratory nature, we would prefer you ask permission before launching unknown devices in our territory." The bridge crew exchanged shocked looks. These primitives not only knew who they were but spoke their language flawlessly. Ixel's scales shifted to a pale blue of diplomatic caution as she responded. "This is Captain Ixel Vos of the Concordat vessel Eternal Seeker. We apologize for the intrusion. We were unaware this system was claimed." A soft chuckle came through the speakers. "Of course you were, Captain. We worked very hard to maintain that impression. Perhaps we should meet in person. We have a station nearby where we can discuss the situation more comfortably." As the coordinates arrived in their system, Ixel studied the tactical display with growing amazement. The human ships had them completely surrounded in a three-dimensional web of overlapping fields of fire. They could have destroyed the Eternal Seeker at any moment, yet chose to talk instead. "We would be honored," Ixel replied, her scientific curiosity overriding her caution. "Though I must ask, how long have you been watching us?" "Oh, Captain," Admiral Chen's voice carried a hint of amusement. "We've been watching everyone for a very long time. We just decided it was finally time to step out of the shadows. Welcome to Earth space. I think you'll find we're full of surprises." As the Eternal Seeker followed its escort toward the human station, Ixel couldn't help but feel that the galaxy was about to change forever. The supposedly primitive humans had not only matched Concordat technology, but had surpassed it in ways she could barely comprehend. And somehow, She suspected this was only the beginning of their revelations. The human diplomatic station, Harmony Point, defied everything Captain Ixel thought she knew about engineering. The massive structure hung in space like a suspended diamond, its crystalline surfaces refracting starlight in ways that seemed to bend reality itself. As the Eternal Seeker approached its docking bay, Ixel noticed something even more remarkable. The station appeared to be growing, its surfaces shifting and adapting in real time. Admiral Chen greeted them in a chamber that married function and aesthetic beauty. The human leader stood with casual confidence, her dark uniform adorned with subtle insignias that seemed to shimmer with embedded technology. Behind her stood a diverse group of humans, each carrying themselves with the same quiet assurance. "Welcome to Harmony Point," Chen smiled, extending her hand in what Ixel's cultural database identified as a traditional human greeting gesture. "I imagine you have questions." "Several thousand," Ixel admitted, attempting to mirror the human's relaxed demeanor despite her racing hearts. "Though perhaps we should start with the most pressing. How long has humanity truly been spacefaring?" Chen gestured toward a holographic display that materialized in the center of the chamber. "Officially, about 80 years by your calendar. Unofficially, the display filled with images of human vessels, each more advanced than the last. We made our first interstellar journey nearly 3 centuries ago." Senior Officer Troll's tentacles writhed in disbelief. "Impossible. Our long-range surveys from that period showed no sign of advanced technology on your world." "Exactly." A new voice joined the conversation. A human scientist stepped forward, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a tight braid. "I'm Dr. Sarah Martinez, Chief of Technological Development. What you saw was exactly what we wanted you to see." The holographic display shifted, showing Earth as it appeared to outside observers, a planet seemingly taking its first stumbling steps into space technology. Then the image flickered, revealing layers of hidden infrastructure, cloaked satellites, and massive orbital installations that had been completely invisible to Concordat sensors. "We learned early on that the galaxy was already populated," Chen explained. "And history taught us that first contact between civilizations of disparate technological levels rarely ends well for the less advanced species, so we decided to wait, to watch, and to prepare." Ixel's scales shifted to a deep purple of realization. "The radio signals we detected. A carefully maintained facade," Martinez confirmed. "While we broadcast what appeared to be primitive communications, we were actually studying every species that passed through our sector, learning your languages, understanding your technologies, and—" She paused meaningfully, identifying your limitations. The implications hit Ixel like a gravitational wave. For centuries, the Concordat had prided itself on being the most advanced civilization in known space. Yet here was a species that had not only caught up to them, but had done so in secret, while maintaining such perfect camouflage that the Concordat's best detection systems had been completely fooled. "Why reveal yourselves now?" Ixel asked, her scientific curiosity warring with diplomatic caution. Admiral Chen's expression grew serious. "Because something is coming. Something that threatens both our civilizations. We've detected anomalies at the galaxy's edge. Signs of an expansion that doesn't follow any natural pattern we've observed." The holographic display changed again, showing patterns of stellar movement that made Ixel's scales pale. Stars were going dark in a systematic pattern, as if something was consuming them one by one. "We've been preparing for centuries," Chen continued. "Building our forces, developing technologies that could defend not just humanity, but all sentient life in our galaxy. But we can't face this alone. The time for hiding is over. We need allies. The Concordat Council will need proof," Trell interjected, their tentacles forming patterns of skepticism. "They won't simply take our word for this." "Of course not," Martinez smiled, activating a small device on her wrist. The chamber around them seemed to dissolve, replaced by a perfect recreation of space. "That's why we're going to show you everything. Our true capabilities, our real technological level, and most importantly, what we've discovered about the threat approaching our galaxy. As the presentation began, Ixel found herself reevaluating everything she thought she knew about humanity. They weren't just advanced, they had achieved technological breakthroughs that the Concordat had dismissed as theoretical impossibilities. The casual way they manipulated space-time, their mastery of dark energy, the quantum computing systems that made their own look primitive, it was simultaneously terrifying and awe-inspiring. All of this, Chen gestured at the display of human achievements, was developed while we maintained our primitive appearance. Imagine what we could accomplish together, now that we can share our knowledge openly. Ixel looked at her crew, seeing her own mix of fear and fascination reflected in their expressions. The humans had hidden their true nature for centuries, building their strength in secret. Now they were offering an alliance, but the power dynamic was clear. They weren't asking for the Concordat's help as supplicants, but extending an offer of partnership from a position of unprecedented technological superiority. As the presentation continued, one thing became increasingly clear to Ixel. The galaxy's balance of power had already shifted. The only question was whether the Concordat would adapt to this new reality, or cling to their illusion of supremacy until it was too late. The warning came not with a bang, but with silence. Deep space monitoring stations operated by both humanity and the Concordat went dark one by one, creating an expanding sphere of communications blackout that moved with terrifying purpose toward populated space. Admiral Chen stood aboard the bridge of the TDF Hyperion, Earth's most advanced warship, watching as tactical displays showed the progression of the silence. Captain Ixel's vessel, now upgraded with human technology, held position alongside them at the edge of the Arcturus sector. "They're moving faster than our projections suggested," Chen said, her voice tight with concern. "The void zone has consumed 3 times the expected volume of space in the past week alone." Ixel's scales had taken on the deep gray of troubled thoughts. The Concordat Council is still debating whether to commit our full fleet. Many believe this is merely a natural phenomenon, despite our warnings. "Natural phenomena don't move with purpose," Dr. Martinez interjected, her hands dancing over a holographic interface. "And they certainly don't selectively target communication arrays and sensor networks." The discussion was interrupted by a priority alert. Every screen on the bridge flared red as new data poured in. The silence had broken, but what replaced it was far worse. "Multiple contacts," the sensor officer announced, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Massive energy signatures emerging from the void zone. Configuration unknown. Nothing like this in any database." The tactical display filled with dots representing the unknown vessels. They moved in perfect synchronization, their formation so precise it seemed impossible for organic beings to maintain. "They're heading straight for the Concordat colony on New Haven," Chen observed. "Ixel, your people aren't ready for this. Let us take point." Before Ixel could respond, the unknown vessels accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible under known physics. They would reach New Haven in minutes, not the hours their trajectory had initially suggested. Chen's reaction was immediate. "Launch the Ravens." From the Hyperion's launch bays emerged what looked like small black spheres. To the Concordat crew's amazement, these spheres began to multiply, splitting and replicating until thousands of them filled space around the human warship. "Quantum-entangled drone swarm," Martinez explained, noting Ixel's fascination. "Each one is connected to our AI defense network. They'll reach New Haven before the hostiles." The Ravens accelerated to match the impossible speeds of the unknown vessels, their movement somehow ignoring the normal limitations of inertia and momentum. As they approached New Haven, they began to emit energy patterns that made Ixel's scientific instruments short out. "What are they doing?" she asked, watching as the swarm formed a complex geometric pattern around the colony. "Creating a quantum shield matrix," Martinez replied. "Something we developed but never had to use in combat before today. Watch." The unknown vessels arrived at New Haven, their massive forms finally becoming visible. They were living mountains of dark matter, their surfaces rippling with energy that seemed to consume light itself. As they approached the colony, the Raven swarm's pattern tightened. The lead vessel fired what appeared to be a beam of pure entropy, designed to unravel matter at the quantum level. It struck the Raven's shield matrix and stopped. Not just stopped, but reversed, the energy being redirected back into a form that the human systems could analyze and adapt to. "Now we know what we're dealing with," Chen said grimly. "Martinez, upload the analysis to the Concordat fleet. Ixal, your people need to see this. These entities aren't just advanced. They're trying to rewrite the fundamental laws of physics in our space." The battle that followed demonstrated why humanity had spent centuries preparing in secret. The Hyperion systems adapted to each new attack, its quantum shields evolving in real time. The Ravens transformed from defensive platforms into offensive weapons, using the enemy's own energy signatures against them. But it was the arrival of the Concordat fleet, finally convinced by the undeniable evidence of the threat, that turned the tide. The combination of human ingenuity and Concordat battle doctrine proved devastating. Where human quantum technology negated the enemy's physics warping attacks, Concordat weapons, guided by human targeting data, found weaknesses in the dark matter vessel's structure. As the last enemy ship retreated into the void zone, leaving behind a graveyard of its fallen companions, Chen turned to Ixal. This was just a scouting force. Their main fleet is still out there, watching, learning. We've shown our hand now. They'll adapt to these tactics. Ixal's scales had shifted to the bright copper of excitement despite the grave situation. Then we'll adapt faster. My people have seen what humanity can do. The Council won't be able to deny the need for full cooperation now. Good, Chen nodded, studying the tactical display where the void zone continued its ominous expansion. Because we're going to need every advantage we can get. This was just the beginning, and our enemy now knows we can fight back. The real war is about to begin. 3 months after the Battle of New Haven, the combined human Concordat fleet gathered at Harmony Point had grown to unprecedented size. The station, true to its adaptive nature, had expanded to accommodate the influx of Allied forces, its crystalline surfaces now housing laboratories where scientists from both species worked to understand their common enemy. Admiral Chen and Captain Ixal stood in the station's strategic command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the void zone's continued expansion. But now, for the first time, they were starting to see patterns in what had previously appeared random. The entity's attacks follow a mathematical sequence, Dr. Martinez explained, highlighting complex patterns in the data. They're not just consuming space, they're rewriting it according to some fundamental equation we're only beginning to understand. A Concordat scientist, their crystalline form shimmering with excitement, manipulated the display to overlay their own findings. Our quantum archaeologists have found evidence of similar patterns in ancient star systems. This may not be the first time these entities have visited our galaxy. The revelation hung heavy in the air. Chen pressed her palms against the tactical table, her expression grim. How long? Based on stellar decay rates, the Concordat scientists' crystals pulsed with purple light, approximately 50 million years ago. And before that, another 100 million. They appear to be cyclical. Like a harvest, Ixal suggested, her scales shifting to the deep blue of profound realization. They're farming galaxies, letting them develop, and then consuming the results. Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. The tactical display erupted with new data as sensors detected massive energy signatures emerging from the void zone. This was no scouting force. It was the main invasion fleet. All ships, battle stations. Chen commanded, her voice carrying across all frequencies. Execute Operation Lightbringer. The combined fleet moved with practiced precision, taking up positions that would have been impossible months ago. Human quantum technology had been successfully merged with Concordat energy systems, creating hybrid vessels that could match the enemy's physics-defying capabilities. The void ships emerged from their dimensional pocket like a tide of living darkness. But this time, they faced a prepared enemy. The first wave of their entropy beams met not just quantum shields, but a new defense developed through the alliance. Concordat crystal matrices enhanced by human quantum programming, creating barriers that could bend space itself. Energy patterns holding steady, Martins reported, monitoring the fleet's integrated systems. The hybrid shields are working. Time to show them what else we've learned. The human Concordat fleet launched its counterstrike. Ravens, now enhanced with Concordat crystal technology, swarmed around the void ships. But instead of just forming defensive patterns, they began to resonate at frequencies discovered in the ancient star systems. The void ships recoiled as if in pain. They remember, the Concordat scientist observed, their crystalline form vibrating with excitement. Their own frequency patterns from millions of years ago were using their past against them. The battle that unfolded was unlike anything either civilization had witnessed before. Human adaptability combined with Concordat precision as the Allied fleet executed increasingly complex maneuvers. When the void ships attempted to rewrite local physics, they found their changes predicted and countered by hybrid computer systems that operated outside normal spacetime. But the enemy was far from defeated. As their initial attack failed, the void ships began to merge, forming massive structures that dwarfed even the largest Allied vessels. Space itself began to crack around them as they attempted to tear open a permanent rift between dimensions. They're trying to bring through something bigger, Chen realized. All ships, concentrate fire on the merge points. Don't let them complete the joining. The Allied fleet responded instantly, but their weapons seemed to have less and less effect as the void ships continued their transformation. Victory, so close moments ago, now seemed to be slipping away. That's when Ixel noticed something in the data streams. The rifts, they're not random. Look at the pattern. Martinez saw it too. They're creating a resonance cascade, trying to amplify their dimensional breach. But if we reverse the frequency, we can use their own power against them, Chen finished, like a gravity well, pulling them back into their own void. The next few minutes were a blur of activity as human and Concordat scientists worked together to reprogram their weapons. The void ships, still focused on their merger, didn't realize the danger until it was too late. The altered frequency struck their half-formed mass like a tsunami of quantum energy, turning their own dimensional rift into a trap. The assembled fleet watched in awe as the massive void construct began to collapse in on itself, pulled back into the very darkness it had emerged from. As the last traces of the enemy vanished, their dimensional rifts sealing behind them, a cheer went up across all frequencies. But Chen and Ixel shared a knowing look. This was a victory, but not the end. The void entities would return, perhaps in years, perhaps in centuries. But when they did, they would find something unprecedented waiting for them. Two civilizations that had learned to combine their strengths, creating something greater than either could have achieved alone. 1 year after the Battle of the Void, Harmony Point had transformed from a military headquarters into the center of a revolutionary scientific and cultural exchange. The station's crystalline walls now housed research facilities where human quantum physics merged with Concordat crystal technology, creating innovations that would have been impossible for either species alone. Admiral Chen stood in her favorite observation dome, watching a demonstration of the latest breakthrough. A small fleet of next-generation vessels performed maneuvers that defied traditional physics, their hybrid hulls seamlessly blending human and Concordat engineering. Each ship carried weapons capable of detecting and targeting dimensional anomalies, a defense against any future void incursions. Remarkable how far we've come, Ixel said, gliding up beside her. The Concordat captain's scales now displayed patterns of iridescent gold, a sign of pride and accomplishment. A year ago, My people still thought of humans as primitive newcomers to the galaxy, and we thought we had to face every threat alone. Chen replied, a slight smile playing across her features. We spent centuries hiding our true capabilities, preparing for the worst. Instead, we found allies who completed us in ways we never imagined. Dr. Martinez joined them, her silver hair now streaked with hints of concordat crystal, a gift from their allies that enhanced her neural interface with the station's systems. The void entities changed everything, not just by threatening us, but by forcing us to look past our preconceptions. The tactical display showed the locations where void zone signatures had been detected and sealed, creating a map of their victory. But more importantly, it showed the spreading network of joint human concordat installations, research centers, and cultural exchange hubs that had sprung up in the wake of the war. The Council has officially recognized Earth as an equal partner in galactic governance, Ixal announced, her secondary eyes gleaming with satisfaction. More than that, they've acknowledged that humanity's approach to advancement, the drive to innovate and adapt, is something we need to learn from. And we've learned just as much from you, Chen responded. The Concordat's stability, your long-term planning, your crystal technology. These aren't just tools for us anymore. They're changing how we think about our place in the universe. A flash of light drew their attention back to the viewport. The prototype vessels were demonstrating their new phase shift technology, a perfect fusion of human quantum mechanics and concordat crystal matrices. They moved through space like ghosts, leaving ripples in reality itself. The void entities will return, Martine said, her expression thoughtful as she watched the display. Maybe not in our lifetime, maybe not for millions of years, but when they do, they'll find something they've never encountered before. Ixal finished. Not just advanced technology, but two civilizations that have learned to be stronger together than apart. The station's adaptive walls hummed with energy as new data poured in from joint exploration missions. Teams of human and concordat scientists were discovering ancient void entity sites throughout the galaxy, each one providing new insights into their ancient adversary. But more importantly, each site became a foundation for deeper cooperation between their peoples. We've started something new here, Chen observed, gesturing to where human children played with young concordat in one of the station's recreational areas. Not just an alliance of necessity, but a true merger of civilizations. The observation dome's crystal surfaces shifted, displaying a real-time map of known space. Humanity's hidden strength had been revealed. The Concordat's ancient wisdom had found new applications, and together they were pushing the boundaries of what both species thought possible. To think, Ixal mused, her scales rippling with amusement. All of this started because we thought we'd found a primitive species sending out radio signals, and we thought we had to hide our true nature to survive. Chen added with a chuckle. Sometimes the best discoveries come from being completely wrong. As they watched the prototype ships complete their maneuvers, a message came through from the Joint Exploration Fleet. They had found something in the galactic core, signs of other civilizations that had faced the void entities in ages past. Some had fallen, but others had left behind technologies and knowledge that could help protect the galaxy's future. Shall we go see what other surprises the universe has in store? Chen asked, already knowing the answer. Ixal's scales shifted to the bright copper of excitement. Together, she agreed. That's the only way forward now. The legacy of humanity's hidden strength and the Concordat's ancient wisdom had created something unprecedented, a partnership that would reshape the galaxy. As Harmony Point's crystalline walls adjusted to accommodate yet another expansion, its very structure seemed to embody the truth they had discovered. The strongest bridges are built not from fear or necessity, but from the willingness to trust, to learn, and to grow together.